You are now connected to Evoking Evolvement with our international team. Danny is in California, USA.
And Vlad is located in Spain, Europa.
Such a brilliant Spanish.
And through our core discussions, interviews, and relating our own personal life awareness,
To how to make your life journey a bit more peaceful, allowing our podcast to educate, evoke, and entertain.
hence the name of our podcast, Evoking Evolvement, or we're just known as Evo. Now, we are in for a real treat today, okay? I am finally, it's been hard to come by because he's, a little shy, a bit maybe introverted, kind of. So this is really a special time for you guys and for me. So Vladi is I will allow him to give us a little background of who he is and where he's from. So Vladi, take the floor.
Thank you, Danny. Well, from Russia with love, made in Russia, Well, actually, not made in Russia, but made in the Soviet Union. Well, a long time ago in 1982, it was, a very hot summer. Born July the 4th, Russian being born there. So that could be some sort of the start of my immigrating process there, because I decided,
you were born July 4th.
That's why I'm so independent.
Wow.
In some spheres of my life. At the age of 8, I remembered some sort of summer camp. There was a group of Americans that came to visit us, so to see what happens behind that iron wall. I don't know how it's called, iron curtain. And actually, it was something mind-blowing at that moment, because I fell in love with the people, with the mentality. It was so different. The Americans seemed to be like the E-team. I decided that I was going to leave out of Russia. So it was one of my first decisions. I was 8 or 9. I don't remember exactly, but I was very, very fallen in love with that idea. Something I desired to live different experience. Then, just the typical Sovietic childhood with, at school, with friends. Actually, I think that children those days were much more, I would say, aggressive. It's something that we call bullying now. At that moment, it was something very common in everyday life. But anyway, just surviving. My mother met my stepfather when I was 11, so there were some sort of 4 or 5 year gap between my father and my stepfather in my life. And actually, I would say that my life changed in a very important way, because my stepfather was Jewish. That's why my family name is Jewish, Lifshitz. I think it's Polish or German, is around there. And he was a businessman, actually one of those first after Soviet businessmen that appeared. It was Yeltsin, the president of Russia, so after the Soviet Union. And trying to learn English, maybe that's one. Now speaking it's one of the product of that epoch in my life.
Did you learn English? Did they teach you English in high school?
In high school, it was not that's good, actually. It was something very basic. My father invested quite much money in my English, because one of my career projects, was being an English teacher. But it was not, actually. Lately, they decided the law faculty in the university, Volgograd University. Volgograd is the city where I was born. It's quite big, and it's famous for its former name, Stalingrad. It's some sort of 1,000 kilometers to the south from Moscow. 1,000 kilometers, not that much. When I say it here in Spain, they look, oh my gosh, 1,000 kilometers. In the United States, it's something similar. Well, 1,000 kilometers.
Right.
Just in
Yeah.
the corner. And that was the beginning. And actually, thanks to that, I speak a little English. Not that's good. I wish it to be spoken, but actually, I can talk to you, my dear Danny, thanks to that. And then, just being a lawyer, I graduated as a lawyer, but I think I worked 1 month as a lawyer because actually it was a huge, awful frustration when I realized that the law in Russia, I think I will say something very, very hard, but at that moment I realized that law is not that powerful in Russia. That's the contact, the money, networking, but not the law. So that was 2006. I decided to go out of Russia, and actually it was Spanish because, well, the casualties, I don't know, because my partner had 2 aunts here. It was like, oh, Spain, really? Well, I knew about the corrida, a little bit of paella and flamenco, nothing else. So Spain was and actually in Russia, it's interesting. They still sometimes perceive Spain as a country close to or next to Italy. So some 2 or 3 years after coming here, my mother asked me, oh my gosh, where are you really? In Spain or in Italy? España, Italia. Discovering things about Spain, I was getting fallen in love actually with this country. I love it. Well, maybe I hope you enjoyed it living here too, Danny. And I realized that
Did I bring up? I can't remember. I can't remember if I brought up that you and I did actually meet in Madrid. Did I bring this up? I don't remember. That we did. Vladi and I did meet when I lived in Madrid, like 2018, 2019, whatever, right before COVID, actually. So I know exactly what he's talking about when he's talking about how beautiful and dynamic Madrid is.
Yes, it really is. And I feel at home here. Well, so when I came here in 2006, well, the first 3 years were a little bit tough for me because, the documents and all that stuff. So actually, it was 3 years of like illegal immigration. So I worked as I don't know, in some shops. And I think it's some sort of resilience training maybe, and some sort of
I'm sure red tape. I've been there.
And it was, oh my gosh, all that I realized the vanity I felt of being like a lawyer and all that stuff. Shit, because in Russia people were like some sort of arrogant, at that moment. I think it's some sort of after poverty, I don't know, resentment, or I don't know what it is, because in the 90s, well, and actually maybe historically it comes from the Soviet Union even. So if you are on the top position, you being a rich man or a person with or an influence, a politician, you're like always relating to other people with some arrogance, actually. And here it was some sort of the therapy for that. So all people are respected, and working as I don't know if it's fishman, the person who sells fish in the market. I realized that doing all that dirty work, as I thought it was at that moment, you are as respected as a bank clerk or a teacher or whatever. So there's some change of mentality. And then when being legalized here, and in 2009, I just wanted to move on, and I didn't know what to do because my 40-year crisis. I lived it in my 30s. I didn't know what to do. Well, being a lawyer, okay, so I can some sort of legalize my degree here, but I didn't want to because it was not a profession actually that I voluntarily chose at the when I was younger. Then I decided to study for being a travel agent. I loved it, and actually I started as working as a travel agent in some tour operators here, quite famous at this moment. But then the crisis came. I mean, the economical crisis. Maybe you remember 2010, 11, even 12. So many important tour operators were broken. Well, I didn't know actually what to do because I didn't want to be a teacher of Russian. As I realized, it's extremely difficult, and being a perfectionist, like, oh my gosh, I cannot, I will not survive with that. Being an English teacher as well, because I'm not a native speaker. So it was like, what can I do? And then coaching came to my life. And that's why I started, well, actually in 2008, before all those problems, I would say emotional problems in my life, I started an English conversation club where we met, where you were trying to improve your English and to maintain it on the good level, coming to that practice. And at that moment, I got interested in some, maybe not programs, but ideas of personal growth, personal development. And I started to use those topics in that English Conversation Club meetings. And I realized that I liked it.
Where did the spark idea come from to start this wonderful, and it has blossomed so beautifully for you and others, to get to the English Conversation Group? I mean, how did that come about?
I think that our life is full of occasions that finally can change our life or lives, and even maybe the joining them or uniting them in some projects. And it was one of those occasions because one day passing by that non-governmental organization, the COGAM, I passed there.
Tell our audience what COGAM is.
COGAM is an LGBT organization that one of the oldest in Spain. So it's in Madrid. And I asked him if there was any group of practicing English or whatever, and he told me, okay, if you want it, just create it. And I just started it at that moment in 2008. And actually, it grew up. As I'm not a professional teacher, I decided to make some sort of practice. I cannot teach them because my English is not that brilliant, and I'm not a teacher and I know the mythology maybe, but I used some ideas. Actually, my English teacher, I hated her in some moments, but actually I adore her now. I realized that some of her techniques, I use them in the meetings. I don't call them classes. I don't call them lessons because they're really not. But some dynamics, some exercises, some ideas how to manage some linguistical situations. They help me a lot. And that's one of the things that brought me to the idea that all the people that come to our lives are for something. Something they bring us, even for being for a long or for a short time in our lives. And that was one of the conclusions I came to. So I couldn't even imagine that I would have some group learning English, hating it sometimes, but coming to the conclusion that everything you learn can help you, can be a resource for you at any point of your life that you cannot even expect. And that was one of those moments. So, okay, so what can I do? I'll just using my English and helping people talk, to relate, to make networking actually naturally transformed into some sort of connecting point for the people who do not speak very good Spanish. That is, well, 2012. A friend of mine came from Russia, and he told me, so you are in crisis, so why don't you learn coaching? And it was, okay, but I thought that it was necessary to be a psychologist for that. And actually it's not. I used the experience of running groups, talking to people in small groups, because it helped me a lot. And then, so now I'm here being a coach, a trainer, actually maintaining that group, and it's running well. I realized that the occasions, sometimes not very significant for us, can be very like a pivot point for you in some things, and that group was one of that.
I just have to say, like the English conversation group that Vladi created, and as I said, it keeps evolving and evolving naturally, and Vladi goes with it, but he is so instrumental in, like he said before, it's almost impossible to really put a label on this quote unquote English conversation group that takes place at COGAM, the LGBT plus center in Madrid. I mean, there's discussions. Vladi sometimes will have some ideas for improvs. So, some guys or women will go up and create a different thing. But the improvs have something to do with life or different kinds of issues. So it's, there were so many things that we did in that group that, again, it's hard to put a label on. Like, it's not a class, it's not a course. It really is just a learning place and a networking place of meeting all different kinds of people from all around the world. And I just, and I think it's every Tuesday night, right?
Yeah. Yeah, here in Madrid. Night in Madrid. Your morning.
Yeah, it's morning here in California, and nighttime in Madrid. So So anything else to add?
I couldn't say that my immigration process was hard here in Spain. Well, the Spaniards, I would say that they are quite easygoing. But actually, I discovered lots of things of mine that I'm just working on them. I mean, the things I would like to change still, but some part of those things, I'm learning how to accept them and feeling, and that's one of the parts of my philosophy is that even if you don't like some things of you, it's a very good investment of your inner work to accept them, and accepting, I mean, seeing them as a resource, because some of them can shape your character. Some of them can shape even your business, as it was mine. Now, as a coach, I use my personal experience of personal growth, of overcoming all those inner challenges. We are our worst judges and trying to deal with that inner judge, with that inner, arrogant thing that actually it's the lack of self-confidence. I think arrogance is that overwhelming pride is a part of the lack of self-confidence, because when you're confident, you don't need to prove anything to anybody. Actually, it's easy to say, but sometimes I have to prove, and I feel it. And sometimes I think it's a resource as well, because I can use it for creating my own, or creating the relationship with my own clients. Because every time I think, okay, how will it be perceived by my clients? How would we perceived by the groups I work with. But at the same moment, I think it's okay as it is. You are okay as you are. And that interview we had with Joy, I love it, by the way, very recommendable. And I felt this reflection with, you don't try to be loved by everybody. You don't need to be liked by everybody. You don't look for it. And finally, if I say your client or your people comes to you, I mean your people that are really yours. I like this idea, and it's something that I work on, and I think it's quite a good inner process. I'm living now, and I think that a big part of work is done already. And thanks to that, now who I am. I am who I am.
Also, I have recently encountered exactly what you're saying again. It's like you're walking a path and you have this big rock, and you learn how to, deal with that big rock. And you think, oh, that's gone. That, I've done that. Right? But then all of a sudden you're continuing to walk on your journey, and here's that rock again, but the rock is a little smaller. So I keep encountering this because that's what life is. And in CBT, in cognitive behavioral therapy, they call it radical acceptance, knowing things you cannot change. But what you can change is your thoughts of what that big rock is and how to tackle that big rock, because obviously, or maybe not so obviously, we cannot control anybody else but yourself. So I mean, it's a big lesson. I mean, I wish I knew that when I was a late teen or early 20s. It took me a long time to learn that.
In coaching and many other personal growth disciplines, I don't know, they say that sometimes you cannot change the situation, but you always can change your attitude. And that is the thing that I learned. And talking about those rocks, you can see it as an obstacle, or you can see it as a resource, or you can see it as a landscape that you can use for getting over it and looking forward, or use it some sort of decoration of your landscape. So you can use it, and it depends on the way your attitude towards it.
Right.
That could be.
Now, I know that your stepfather. Well, let me just ask: are you still close to your biological father?
No, well, actually, both of them died. My father died when I was 17. It was an accident. His death was the first death in my family, I think. I mean, that I realized 2013.
Gosh,
that
wow.
Is. But my mother is still there, and she's healthy and full of energy. And
I know your stepfather made a huge impression on you, and I didn't know that he was still not around. But I was going to say, my God, how proud, he must have been of you, and of course your mother must be very proud of who you are, what you've become, what you're doing, contributing not only to others, but contributing to yourself, becoming a better person, becoming a whole person, and thus being more peaceful and I hate the word happy, but for lack of a better word, a happier, a more maybe content. maybe a more content person as we age, because it would be nice to think that it all comes naturally. And when I was younger, I did think that. I thought, oh my God, when I turn, 58 or 62, when I was like, oh, I'm going to have it so together, I don't know where I got that ridiculous idea, because we're human beings, it's constant, it's continual. Yeah, but anyway. All right. So, both your fathers died. That can definitely cause some grieving for you, from some sadness. So I really want to know, especially from the coach, how do you deal with your own depression, your own anxiety when it comes? What do you do?
My stepfather, as you mentioned him, his philosophy was some sort of that all the emotions are just rubbish, just get rid of them. They don't let you be rational. He was a very, very passionate and emotional person, but his like motto was, okay, all the emotions is rubbish. And until I started, actually, I was surprised being a coach before I started some courses about emotional intelligence, where I realized that belief was still there. So any emotion I felt was something like, unuseful. I felt it like, okay, I'm sad, but just try to rationalize the situation. And actually, it doesn't work that way, because not leaving your emotion, you just like tap it, and it starts accumulating all the things that should go out. But the thing that actually I think you can do, or I do, is let it go out, but in a healthier way. And the first step for me is leave that emotion. Just leave it. If you want to cry, try to find that moment when you can come there again and leave it. Maybe you can find the name for it. So now telling myself, okay, I feel sad, I feel upset.
You're saying live it, Live, right? Just feel it and live it.
Yes. Yes, that is not Leave, but live, actually Live, live it. And that's if you cannot in that moment, find the moment for living it. That's my first step of my own recipe. Then name it. Maybe the order is different. First name it and then leave it, or first leave it and then name it. And naming it helps you to start finding it a place that it really deserved, because it's not that generalized. So I feel angry, I feel upset. It actually just these two steps takes out the power of uncomfortable feelings. They're not that powerful, because now they have their name and now they have their place in your life. And then start deciding what to do. But I think all these things can be resumed in one thing: is let you leave this emotion, because sometimes we do not let ourselves leave those emotions, and that's happened. And I think those difficulties that I found coming here to Spain, because I felt lots of emotions at that, because that's like, oh my gosh, it's fabulous, this country. Then I go to a work that I hate. Then after that work, I met up with my friends, becoming happy. So all this, these emotions. But all the time it was something like, no, you shouldn't feel that. because that's something wrong, because feeling emotions is something wrong. Actually, it was not, but that was the idea. I just like heard it from my stepfather, I mean. But now I know that that is the main clue for the recipe. Let you leave the emotion.
I think this is very, very important because I think as human beings, most of us want to just, when we feel these overwhelming, sometimes overwhelming feelings, we want to run or we want to deny it. And so I love this powerful word you just used of to live it, to get in it, to feel it, and to be with it. I mean, whatever the words are for each individual, to claim and take responsibility for what each of us are feeling. So yeah, I really like that, Liv. How do you fucking maintain your upbeat personality? How do you do it? I'm impressed. I'm inspired by your, upbeat. Your face is getting red. I like that.
So yeah, drilling into.
But no, I mean you carry yourself very upbeat, good personality, and positive vibrations. How do you maintain that?
I would say the first idea that comes to my mind is, first of all, coming back to the word accept. Accept your negative vibrations to be able to maintain the positive ones. I think that's the point. Sometimes I can get angry, I'm upset, frightened, and say, okay, I have the right to feel it, and it's okay feeling. This idea of all the emotions are legal. It's okay feeling all the emotions you can feel. Don't feel guilty for feeling anything for anything or for anybody. It's okay. Oh, you're an adult. How can you be scared about it? It's so silly at its age. No, at any age you can feel any emotion, and you are allowed to, and you have the right to feel it. So I think one of the things that's helped me is that acceptance. Later, I see that, okay, so it's processed, and now I can give it the place that it really deserves in that situation.
I like it. I like it. Here's a broad question, but what is the first thing that comes to mind when I ask this question? Um, what do you fear?
Two things actually, and they're quite pragmatic. First of all, I realize that I fear poverty. Honestly, I'm not that rich. I would love to being like Elon Musk, but I think it's one of them. And the second are some sort of disabilities, maybe physical disabilities. These are two things I fear, and I think two of them can be united in the word disabilities, because being poor, maybe it takes some abilities, some possibilities from you, and being disabled, I mean physically disabled, is something that takes the opportunities. I think these two things are the things that I'm fear.
What do you daydream about?
Hmm. Um, most of my dreams are connected to my work, and one of them is having a very big, I mean, big center that can help people with the personal growth. And one part of them would be for people, talented people of different types of talents, that's being some sort of producing center for them. And that could be my daydream.
But okay, so where does this is good. Where does your passion and compassion come from to help others? I mean, you really, I think, at the core of your being, there is that helpful gene, that helpful DNA, or whatever you want to call it. Was that instilled in you when you were a child? Is your mother like that? I mean, where does that wanting to help others come from?
It might be from my childhood, because I wanted to, I want to be that adult I needed when I was a child. And maybe my grandmother was that type of adult I needed. I think that inner children we have in ourselves, so they need some help. And maybe I have learned how to be that adult for my child. And I want to share it with the people who have their own children in them, to be that adult for them.
Nice. I
But
like
yeah.
this. We all have, like you said, we all have that inner child, and the child has to be respected and honored and nurtured. So yeah, very important. So let's see, on a little frivolous note, I want to know the first name of the first person you ever romantically kissed.
Oh my. Well, actually, I must say that I'm a very romantic person, and I fall in love with ease. When I was a child, I remember she lived in the same block, and I thought I was falling in love with her, but actually, I think it was a romantic kiss. Because I remember this, it was some movie. I don't remember what movie it was, what film it was. But when I saw it, I said, I want it in my life. So you will be the person who will give it to me. So maybe it was a romantic kiss, but from the movie, the Hollywood romantic kiss. It was not
Yeah,
Hollywood.
yeah. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking. Now, how old?
uh, maybe 7,
Oh,
8. I'm a
wow.
very young bird,
Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I think movies, oh yeah. I can totally relate because movies do that to me as well. Oh my God. That romance. Oh, nothing like it. Nothing like it. So that leads me to my next question of name one of your favorite films.
Mhm. One film that impacted me a lot. I have many of my favorite films but one that impacted me a lot was the artificial intelligence. And I remember that 4 days after that movie, after that film, I was like under the impression of it, because it's touched lots of strings of my life. So I would say that's one that impacted me a lot. I want to watch it again one day, but I'm a little bit afraid of it for two reasons. One of them, because I cannot let myself be 4 days that out of place of time and time. I need to work. And the second, I am afraid of losing that magic, because I don't know if it will impress me again. That's why. But I think that was one of them.
Now this is it the Steven Spielberg film, right? I think.
That is.
Yeah, yeah. Fabulous, fabulous. Um, Is there anything special you do in the mornings when you wake up? I mean, do you have a habit or a tradition of doing anything or?
Hmm. Okay, the first thing I do in the morning, I think I maybe shouldn't do it, is trying to remember what I need to do this day. And I think it's not the best start of the day because I start with other things in my head. Uh, and then, these months, I think there is a tradition that appeared, is having a nice and tasty breakfast. Usually I started my day with anything, something fast food, fast breakfast. But I realize that it's something that I can enjoy more, and it's some sort of ritual for myself, just honoring myself with the good start of the day.
I think that's great. Enjoying the moment and waking up slowly to start the day, to start an active day.
Yeah.
So I have so many other questions, but we're running out of time. We can always address them in future podcasts. But I want to know the last question. I want to know one word that you would use to describe yourself.
I like the word generosity. And that comes from my grandmother, because I saw her very generous. And that is, I think I'm generous. And when I'm okay, when I'm not frightened of anything, when I feel that I'm very generous. So I think generosity.
That's a nice word. I like. Anything else you would like to add before we end today's episode?
I think that you drilled the couch very well. So I don't know if you have any questions. Our spectators have any questions, you're welcome to ask. You're welcome to ask them those questions
Yes.
you're interested in.
Please leave your comments. Let us know what kind of guest you would like for us to interview. But I mean, I am just so elated. Number one, to finally complete this episode. I've been wanting, because we are titling this "Drilling the Coach." Okay, we have drilled the coach, and I'm very happy. It was a very pleasurable experience, and I really want to thank my co-host for going beneath the surface and telling us more about himself. I mean, you can't do somebody's life, in an hour and a half film or in an hour podcast. It's impossible. But, please stay tuned, because you're going to be learning much, much more about this. I call him a role model. I truly, he inspires me. And I'm just so happy that, we are co-hosts. So I thank him for sharing his time with us today and learning more about him. And I just have to say, stay tuned. We have some really rousing and exhilarating guests. Yes.
And please subscribe so you can be notified of our episodes and get full updates from us. Also, be sure and like our channel as well.
Yes. Adios.